Good morning and welcome to art class. What we're going to do this morning, I'm going to show you how to use the critique sheet that you upload with your tessellation in Canvas. First things first, you need to open the critique sheet by opening Word on, open the file itself. That should take you right directly to Word. You want to make sure that you have made check the box or whatever it is you have to do on your computer that allows you to edit this document. Once you've got the document open where you can edit it, first don't worry about changing and putting your name and everything on here, because you're going to upload this document electronically associated with your name, so you don't really have to worry about that. But you do need to read all of the categories here and see how they apply. You'll notice that all of the possible numbers here start at 5. So the lowest grade you can give yourself on any of these 10 categories is a 5. So that's kind of a little gift, but that essentially what that means is if you turn in a tessellation that's even remotely finished, the lowest grade you can get is a 50. That's a whole lot better than a 0 in anybody's book. So just getting it done and getting it turned in is kind of a little bonus. So let's get started. So the very first category is artistic ability and growth. And this is a category, it's kind of like, it is fairly subjective, and the entire process is somewhat subjective because you have to make a judgment choice. But you can make it based on these kind of logical sort of categories, and you can look at your own work and decide, well, mine kind of fits this category or that or this level here. And they're divided into 4 categories here with 10 points, well, really 5 or 6, 7 or 8, 9, and 10. And the categories are minimal effort, basic, proficient, and advanced. Advanced being worth 10 points, and that means you really knocked it out of the park, and there's nothing wrong with that. So let's look at artistic ability and growth. Minimal grade 5 to 6. Piece incorporates ideas, physical help, and solutions from others. Well, this piece right here, while it's a fantastic piece, is actually someone else's work entirely. So if I'm grading myself on this, what would my grade be? Right, it would be a 5. So I've got all of these categories here, and here's where the neat trick comes for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all of the words here on this document. Now I have enabled editing, and it comes right over here, and once I've highlighted that, I'm just going to enter it's 5 or a 6. I get to decide. It's on the high side of the minimal effort or the low side of minimal effort. And for me, since I didn't literally do any of this, it's a 5. And when I hit the 5 button, it removes all of that text and replaces it with a 5. I'm done with the first category. I don't have to do anything else. Efficient use of studio time. Student was off task during most of the studio time, tried to avoid work, stayed barely on task. And this is one of those self-judgment things too. If you were playing the whole time you did this and you did it in 20 minutes, is that good use of studio time? Probably not. But I'm a very diligent student, and I worked during studio time. I was pretty good at it. I worked enthusiastically. I used the majority of studio time to work on the piece. Over here in advanced category, didn't miss classes and made up studio time, mature behavior, that sort of thing. I'm going to give myself a 10 over here. So I'm going to highlight the text. Not going to do anything else, and just enter 1, 0, and that puts a 10 in that box. Kind of cool, right? This one's a little more complex. I'm not really sure why the third one I should say is a little more complex, but as far as how it's laid out, I have a completion grade, and that's simply, is it complete? I think on the form that's actually uploaded, it might say piece is finished, and that's really as simple as it gets. The piece is either finished or not. However, there are degrees of finished. So the piece is not really finished at deadline day. I'm turning it in anyway, even though there's a lot of work I could do to it. That's not finished. Piece is mostly finished. I've covered, if like for this one, you've covered all of the material on here. The whole page is covered. That's finished. So we'll go with piece is mostly finished, or piece is finished because it's all done, whichever the case may be. Or the piece is beautifully finished. And I'm looking at this thinking, that's awesome. I love that. That's beautiful. that's beautifully finished. But in honesty, while this is a beautiful piece, there's a whole lot of white paper here, things. So I'm just going to call it finished. And I'm going to give myself a 9. Application of the given process, following the directions, processes, steps, etc. That's this category here. Process was not followed, steps were skipped. The process is exactly like it should be. Everything has clearly been gridded out. My tessellation pieces, they all look about the same. Directions were followed, but steps of the process were skipped or minimally completed. Nope, that's not it. The process was followed exactly as the instructions specified. It's at least that. So I'm at least a 9. And for possible 10 here, the process was followed exactly as the instructions required. And in addition, the piece exhibits evidence of creative experimentation beyond the process. These little octopi on here definitely demonstrate some experimenting with the thing. Even though they're very similar in shape and size, they're just the creation of the octopus in the piece all by itself. That to me, that says that's pretty darn cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this one another 10 because I think that one's out of the park. It's awesome. Next category, quality and craftsmanship of the finished piece presentation. The piece is sloppy, presentation is unacceptable for 5 or 6. It's definitely not that, it's really good. Lacking craftsmanship, that means it's going to have a lot of stray marks all over the place. The lines are not going to be clean. There's spilled coffee on it, or, you know, whatever. That's where it's going to be over here with lacking craftsmanship. Under 9, most areas completed well. Piece exhibits minor flaws. This is kind of going to be that, because you can see there's some pencil mark lines here. There's a few stray marks here and there. I can see some of the pencil marks if I look very carefully. It looks like there are some boo-boos here where the colors kind of went further than they intended. I don't know. So I'm going to call this one a 9, because if I look over, piece is beautifully crafted, excellent quality. It is, but I really don't think it rises up to that 10. We're going to put this one as a 9. And remember, you are making this subjective judgment about your own work based on this rubric. And there is a little bit of room, like, you know, I feel like I did better than a 9. Well, give yourself a 10. The worst thing that's going to happen is I'm going to look at your critique and look at your work together and think, well, I mean, maybe, but really no. And I'll change the grade. And then we're talking 1 point or 2 points in the overall picture. That's not huge. Now, be honest. You know, if you know that your work if you could really have improved on it, you know, make that happen. But we're not talking huge numbers. Here's difference. Be honest. If you feel like you've earned the 10 because your piece is just really advanced and really off the charts good, give yourself a 10. If it's not, you know, maybe it's somewhere in the middle between 9 and 7 or 8. We'll look at that. So the next category is correct use of materials and workspace. In minimal, didn't use materials properly, required elements are absent, sloppy, or incomplete, class materials were wasted, or if you restarted on a second sheet of paper. This one's a big thing. If you restarted on a second sheet of paper in the classroom, you're wasting classroom materials. That means that you might have made a mistake, but you know, usually that's from not paying attention and not following instructions. So be honest with yourself. This one isn't that case. Proper use of most materials, required elements are present, class materials used reasonably. That sounds like we're here. Next category or next level is class materials used thoughtfully, little waste. So yeah. Next one, required elements are accurate and clean, demonstrate creative interpretation of the assignment, class materials used thoughtfully. This one's going to be a 9 or a 10, just looking at it. I'm going to be generous to myself here and call it a 10. Although this isn't my work, but we're pretending that it is for the want of argument. Next one is creativity, originality. This is where it starts to get a little subjective, and you get to make decisions. Piece does not display first level. Piece does not display original ideas. That's totally original. Piece displays simple imagery solutions, little evidence of experimentation and originality. These are definitely a complex image because just creating that and filling the space required a lot of thought. So that's not a simple little thing. Some areas, the next level, some areas are not completely original, adequate experiment evident. And level 10, piece is finished, exhibits complete originality and thorough experimentation. Experimentation would have been a whole lot more development on each of these, so I'm going to call this one a 9. And the reason I'm not going to give it a 10 is because these are very uniform, even though there's a little variety in the color, and the color pattern makes an interesting pattern all by itself. I feel like the colors could have been developed more. These are colors pretty close to straight out of the pencil, so they could have been developed a little more. So I'm going to call this one a 9. And again, I'm just highlighting the text and replacing the text with the number. Project requirements. Color is evenly distributed, bold colors. Well, these colors are very much straight out of the color pencil, and they're not bold at all. So that one's going to be kind of less. That one's actually probably going to, this is probably going to be a 5 over there, because it really has a whole lot of color pencil visible. It could have been meets requirements. Colors are plentiful, defined, and neatly applied. Defined colors, some color pencil effect, no blending of marker and pencil. You know what? I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, maybe it's a little better than 5. I'm going to hit the Control button and the Z button, and look, it repopulated it, put it right back. That's kind of cool. So I'm going to come over here and I've changed my mind. You know, this is somewhere between 7 and 8, or 6 and 7, I should say. No, yeah, 7 and 8, somewhere between 7 and 8. So it's like, well, it could have been a lot better. There's a whole lot of color pencil effect. I'm going to highlight the second category here. This is a 7 or an 8. I'm going to say it's a 7. It's smooth. Category 9 would have been very good. Smooth blending of colors, some bold defined colors, little color pencil effect, attempt at blending marker and pencil, and this really doesn't have any of that. So we're going to leave it at 7. Outstanding would have been thoughtful use of blended color, bold defined colors. Let me show you what that might look like. This is going to be a little closer to that category. Notice the colors are very much 100%. You can't really tell where there's marker and where there's color pencil. It's definitely a variety of things. If you look on the back, you can see, oh, well, it's a lot of color pencil and a lot of marker, and you really can't tell that. So that's where the 9 and 10 categories are going to be for that. But for this piece, it's a good piece. There's nothing wrong with it. But this is just not a 9 or a 10. Project requirements. The shapes are developed. Say category 5, 6 here does not meet the requirements, below expectations, no contrast, minimal shapes. That's definitely not what's going on here. Meets requirements. Shapes are well integrated with each other. Well, yeah, it's at the very least, it's a 7, 8. Let's see what 9 looks like. Very good. Shapes are complex and well integrated with each other. This is definitely complex shapes, and they're perfectly integrated. Category 10, creative use of shading to create three-dimensional forms and shapes. This is, it's really not there. There's a kind of little bit of shading here, but these are not developed. They're very flat. I'm going to call this, I'm going to say it's a 9. That's not too bad. All right, last category, project requirements, is the grid, and this is how it's laid out. Category 5 and 6 does not meet requirements, below expectations. Random, uncoordinated placement of shapes. These are all neatly aligned, very clearly the grid worked out, so that's not a 5. 6 or 7, 8 meets requirements, grid is developed and used. Yes, definitely that's true. Category 9, very good, perfect distribution, and I would say that fits this because they're perfectly distributed on the page, so it's at the very least a 9. In category 10, outstanding, creative and thoughtful use of the placement of shapes. Well, yeah, that would be true, except I think in this category, 10 is going to be this, where the shapes, while they all fit in there, they're not all the same. And well, they are all the same, but they look different. This is definitely, these are all the same shape on here, but they're treated very differently. That's going to be the 10. This is a solid 9, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I've got highlighted the text here under the box for 9, entered the 9. So I've got now, I'm going to click down here on the bottom to make sure I'm not loading anything here. So I've got a 5, a 10, a 9, a 10, a 9, a 10, a 9. So how do I add all that together? Well, I'm going to open my calculator. I'm going to go here to CAL. Let's see if I've got calculator. Oh, first app on there. Bang. So I'm going to open my calculator, and I'm just going to look down the categories. 5, 5, and plus. 10, and plus. 9, and plus. 10, plus. 9, plus. 10, plus. 9, plus. 7, plus. 9, plus. Scroll it on down here to the next, and it's 9 plus equals. Oh, I'm sorry. I did something wrong. Well, there you go. So I did something wrong. Nothing wrong with that. So let's go up here and let's clear everything. We're going to try it again. You see, I make mistakes too. 5 plus 10 plus 9 plus 10 plus 9 plus 10 plus 9 plus 7 plus 9 plus 9. Yeah, I don't know why we're coming up with 251. Clearly that's not the score. I bet I'm hitting the times button or something. Y'all tell me. You can tell me when you watch the video. I don't know. It's okay. I'm not editing that out because it's useful to know. So I got 5 plus 9 plus, oops, I skipped one, plus 10. Let's just clear it. Let's start all over again. So I start at 5 plus 10 plus 9 plus, yeah, this is already going weird. 5 plus 9 plus 5. Oh, I see. Clear everything. Clear. I don't. Okay. I see what I did now. I wasn't clearing the whole thing. So it's evidently C clears it all. You got to make sure you're doing no math up here. We start with 0. See, I'm learning too. 5 plus 10 plus 9 plus 10 plus 9 plus 10 plus 9 plus 7 plus 9 plus 9 equals 87. And I can check it right here. So I've got 5, 10, 9, 10, 9, 10, 9, 7, 9, and 9. So there's my check. So my grade is 87, and I come right down here where it says total, click in there, and type in 87. And you might be wise to backspace it a little bit so that you get that line back. And now I'm going to come up here and I'm going to save, because I've already saved this as on my desktop work. And I come down here, and the essay question is, how does my work demonstrate what I've learned this term? Include the major concepts you've learned for this project and give examples of how you mastered them. Key thing here is elements and principles. And you'll just start typing right there. You enter your essay. You don't have to write 14 pages here. Just a little explanation of what those elements and principles are that you have applied to this piece. Once you've done all this, you're going to save everything you've done. Remember, we started the file, we saved it onto our desktop or onto our art folder, and you go back to the Canvas page, and once you have that Canvas page pulled up for the assignment, you'll just upload it there. You just hit the submit assignment button. There will be a submit assignment just for this critique, and that critique includes both these categories and the essay. These categories will apply directly to the grade you get for your artwork. The essay itself counts as a test grade all by itself, and I grade that on a 25-point scale. If it looks like you've halfway done it, I'll give you half the points. It's a little subjective, and that's true, but if you answer to me what the elements and principles are in how you answered them here, like for instance, well, I used color by blending and mixing colors to create different colors on my piece. I used line to outline each of the pieces and create a continuity. You understand what I'm saying? You don't have to write a book, but you need to answer the question is what elements and principles are here. And if you are unsure about which elements and principles are incorporated here, go back to the very beginning where we talk about the elements and principles. It's in Canvas. You can look at it. You took notes on it. You can look at your notes and say, okay, yeah, all right, this is how it applies. And again, don't write a book. If you've got 3 or 4 of them on there, I'm going to call that a happy application of the process and give you full points for it. If you're creative in your writing process, you write a good, thorough essay, you use good grammar, you actually use the spell check that's included in the Word, then that'll make me happy. Put a sentence where it goes. Don't make one 14-line sentence, simple stuff. Make it easy for me, I'll make it easy for you, I promise. Questions? Please, please, please send me an email. Or if you're in class, you can come and talk to me. I'm happy to help, but you have to ask those questions so I'll know. All right, have a great day.